This is Managing Mayhem.
Brought to you by two lawyers and a layman.
Because good intentions are not a legal defense.
Wait, I'm sorry, they're not? Okay, well, let's get going then.
Hello and welcome to Managing Mayhem. How you guys doing? This is Patty, Jeff, and Jack.
Woo!
Hey, what's happening?
I got coffee that I thought was coffee beans, but it's espresso beans. So I'm kind of freaking out.
Does it cause gas? Why am I saying that?
Causes some gas and a little bit. Because today we're answering a question, and we've titled the episode "Fred has flatulence," which is a crazy word.
Flatulence.
But flatulence sounds like maybe a religion that went down after a long time.
I did see a book when you guys were in elementary school, and it was called "The Gas We Pass."
I remember that book.
Yeah, explain to kids why, so kids wouldn't be frightened about it. I didn't know kids were frightened about gas passing.
Well, I think
we
it
bought it
was
for
also the
Jack,
shade.
and so was, there was some
kind of scared of everything, especially
lived in a
bodily
world
functions.
of fear.
Yeah, it's a tornado in my body.
Topsiders.
Okay, so the complaint was that there's coworkers have had it with Fred. They complain that he has been passing gas for months. Sometimes he laughs when he does it. Other times he says he can't help it.
Okay.
They say that it concerns them.
It does.
It does. They
Very
say that,
concerning.
Holy hell. It's a lot of air. They say that it occurs at least 6 to 8 times per day, which is frequent, at least from what they can hear / smell. What is a manager to do? It seems
good question.
so... Because I want to support farts. People should be
Why?
able... Because it's unhealthy to keep them in. I've read.
Okay.
On a tote bag. I saw once.
But it's gross.
Anyway,
it's gross in the workplace.
Yeah, totally. Wait till you get home and let it really rip.
I
Go to
get
the
questions.
bathroom. You don't wait till you go home. Just go to the restroom.
No, it's not on the premises.
Okay.
It's a continuous complaint that we see. We don't see it every day, but we see it probably at least once every few months where coworkers have had it with people like Fred. So
How
the
do you?
First thing
Where does
I
it
would
even
do is
fall under?
first thing I would do is it's hard to know. You don't want a gas passing policy. You're much too
that's
specific.
pretty defined.
And you don't want to gaslight anyone.
You'd be like, your new employees be like, is this actually an issue? Why do we have a full policy on?
Like, what's our
Well,
problem?
let's go to
Passing
section
the
C.
Yeah.
Flatulence.
Corn.
I think it would fall under your grooming and hygiene policy, in my opinion. If they're doing an intentionally respectful workplace policy, but under your hygiene policy, it basically is pretty broad. Like one sample I have is we're all expected to maintain professional standards of grooming, personal hygiene, and dress during work hours. So, and also it can't distract others or create a safety hazard. I don't know if gas creates a safety hazard.
I
think so. I think that
Carbon monoxide emissions or
exactly asphyxiation.
So have a policy first of all.
Have a policy, and then as a manager, you can't let it linger.
Ha ha.
That's my one. That's my
I'm
my
getting
one.
really pissed off.
You have to talk to Fred about it.
Okay.
You have to have that kind of awkward conversation, which every manager loves to have, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, I get to address employee gas at work. But tell him that you've received some concerns about his flatulence or passing gas.
Right.
Definitely don't give other employees names. But get
Even though
them
Fred's gonna want them.
Fred's gonna be like, I need a list of names.
I need to know who does not and who likes.
The thing is, get him to acknowledge it as well that there is
confess.
There's an issue. And then I would just ask for some proposed solutions. Like, hey, we can't continue to have this. It's become a distraction.
That doesn't sound like a solution.
Stop it. It's a solution.
It sounds like, please.
Can you either stop it or give us some solutions on what we can do? How can we help you with this problem, Fred?
But you're asking Fred to propose some solutions.
Yes.
To his own gas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a pretty intimate topic.
He knows his body better than we do.
Right.
Right. But I don't want a manager to do is make all kinds of suggestions for him. I want him to be accountable.
Hey, Fred, you lactose intolerant?
Right. No, not
here's
appropriate.
Here's some Gas X.
So, because if Fred can't control it, then it sounds like it's kind of like you actually don't. We're joking about it now, but obviously you can't joke about it in this situation, the communication about it, because it could be more than just someone being an absolute like.
Right. If he says, "Hey, I can't help. I can't predict it. It just happens." Then okay. And if he that's going to lead to mentioning some sort of medical condition, which will trigger the ADA process. So.
Right. So this is really, even though we joke about it and we actually, people get annoyed by it, I think this is one of the big steps that employers miss. And actually there are lawsuits about missing this step with someone who has gas. If Fred volunteers, you cannot, it's not lawful to say, Fred, do you have a medical condition?
Right. Are you lactose intolerant?
Exactly. But if Fred volunteers, that I have a medical condition, I can't help it or I can't predict because of this. This is where it's a hard stop. You take him to HR, refer him to HR. You don't drive him to HR. You refer him to HR. And they're going to do an ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act assessment, which is legally required. And what they'll do is give him a form. We call it the ADA form to take to his healthcare provider to see if, and have that provider complete it. So that's what we're going to do.
And what the form really, what it does is it asks a number of questions. It asks, is whatever he's experienced, does that qualify as a disability under the ADA?
Okay.
It asks the provider to assess the essential functions of the job and the person's ability to perform them with that disability, as well as what are some proposed accommodations, reasonable accommodations that the provider can give the employer as to how the person can, ultimately what you need them to do is perform the essential functions of the job. And so if it's gas, they need to promote or provide some accommodations or proposed accommodations as how they could get the employee to be able to perform his job without having gas, or in a way or area that's okay, right?
Ruins it for everyone.
Right.
Yeah. So what are some accommodations that would actually help somebody who had gas?
Yeah, well, first of all, we have to see if they actually have a disability like IBS or lactose intolerance. And if they do, I have seen some accommodation requests by providers, and we want those, outlined. Some that I've seen is odor eliminators. They have sprays.
Classic.
Some
Febreze, one of those plug-in pods.
I've seen where one provider recommended a fan. That can be problematic.
That is causing trauma.
It is spreading, literally spreading it everywhere. Going out the window.
Yeah.
Right. That's the problem.
Not a good solution for me.
Yeah, frequent breaks to the restroom. So if they are anticipating it. Another one was putting their office. Actually, one provider once wrote, put their office in the North 40 and talk to people by phone. What they meant was like, just get them away, an isolated private office.
Yeah, we're going to put you in Siberia.
Yeah.
I don't know what North 40 means.
I don't know. I don't know what that means at all.
Sounds
I was like,
fancy.
we're moving you to the Indiana branch.
Right.
What it doesn't mean is saying, they have free reign. They have a medical condition, so they can just pass gas whenever they want, anytime, anywhere. So,
which again, we all wish we could do.
Right.
We all wish
that. No, not really.
But the thing is when you get these these proposed accommodations from the provider, you need to be sure that there is a specific time and duration on all of these. Anytime you ask for an ADA document to be filled out, you need to make sure that the accommodations have time duration. So if they say frequent breaks, we need to know how long those breaks are, what frequency, how many breaks a day. So don't be
you meant
afraid.
Time and duration of the gas. I was like, what are you talking about?
Stopwatch.
No, or if it's 6 months, the condition is,
if it's a temporary condition, and so we can push them to remote work for a short period of time, and so that's an assessment that HR will do when they get that documentation. But don't be afraid to send it back to clarify the parameters of it. I think that's a big issue that Patty and I see a lot of. These accommodations, they're just very vague and open-ended, and it's like,
right.
Well, what does that mean? What
the
does
other thing that's important about
bathroom
that
breaks mean? You know,
is some people, Jeff, I've seen where they want it forever, and and if you gave someone remote work because it was going to be 6 weeks that they were having stomach issues, or that's different than forever remote work because you have a gas issue. So this goes to whether the accommodation is an undue hardship on the employer. Because it's only a reasonable accommodation if it doesn't cause an undue hardship on your business operations or affect the safety of the employer or others. This one isn't really a safety one, but it could be an undue hardship to always give them a private office or let them work.
Or even taking 5 bathroom breaks a day could be an undue hardship on the operation. They're not able to perform their job, and so you do need to know those parameters. And so those are things to consider when you're doing this ADA paperwork. Obviously, like I said, HR will be the one doing the assessment. If they're members of Patty or mine, they can call us and we will happily, review it with them. But it's definitely a major step. Don't just skip it and say, oh, it's medical, we can't accommodate, sorry. It has to go to HR.
Look into it.
And for our clients as well, we have a sample ADA form. They're not government issued. It's one developed by lawyers that we recommend. So
Okay, so what if it's actually like just people being like middle schooly? Because this is what I've encountered a ton more, where people are like, trying to be funny or blame other people or just like kind of being stupid. Like, I remember there was a group of guys who would always like, they would always like, when we had this group scene, they would see who could like fart the worst during it. Oh my God. And just we'd all just be sitting on stage with and I was like, this is so terrible and distracting. Yeah. And
I have to say though, Jack, you're right. I'd say 90% of the time when people call me, it is not related to medical. It is someone just being kind of impolite or intentional.
Right.
So. Yeah. I'm like trying not to gag and like perform.
It's so gross. It's so gross, gnarly. Especially when it's intentional. I mean, it's clearly a violation of your respectful workplace policy. It's intentional and repeated behavior.
I'm going back. I'm filing a letter retroactively.
Right.
You know who you are.
Yeah, we know who you are. That's just a violation of your respectful workplace policy of being professional and courteous and not farting on people. Which should
horrible.
Be something that you should graduate out of.
You're a
when you turn
45-year-old man.
Right. Exactly.
You would think that, but there's all these TikTok videos where people are like saying how to pass gas by people you don't like and blame it on them. And I'm like, these are by like 40-something-year-old people.
Yeah. Such a great way to get back though at someone.
My gosh. Really bad. I don't know.
So bad.
So juvenile.
Bad. What do people put on the internet? My God.
I just get
juvenile.
I just get nervous to really try to force a fart. You know what I mean? It just seems. Okay. I'm just saying. Okay, we'll cut that out. Disappointed mother look.
Mom's frozen for me.
Broke computer. Okay, so are there other problem areas to consider with the gas passing? Because it's a weirdly invasive one.
It's a tough conversation if it's not intentional.
Right.
Even if it is, it's a weird conversation.
At least you can like be like, haha, we got it, enough.
Yeah, don't do that again.
Right. The other one's much more sensitive.
But I also think it's a really disruptive one for the coworkers. It's really bothersome. It's very upsetting. The one thing I have seen over the top a little bit is that the coworkers get so upset that they're actually documenting every time they smell it, every time, and like they do it for months, and they're spending all their time documenting. Just go to your.
Well, that is they're taking. They want to take them down.
Well, they want to.
I'm getting all of the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The other thing I see is the manner in which you talk to the person, because it is a delicate topic and you don't know if it's medical. Right. You have some sensitivity. Jeff,
totally.
You and I were talking about this case. You read it about, it was a federal employee. It was back in like late 2012. They worked for, I believe, the Social Security Administration. And it went on like smokinggun.com because they did a 5-page reprimand for someone who passed gas too much, in their opinion. What were some of your takes from that one, Jeff?
It is hilarious. First of all, it's hilarious. There's one thing to document these issues. You can do it. But you can also leave out some flavorful language that they had in here.
I see one. I asked if you could make it to the restroom before releasing that awful, unpleasant odor. That was one.
Okay.
Like, okay.
Hot enough.
Another one was your continuous releasing of your bodily gas and the terrible smell that comes with the gas. This person's frustrated.
I love this.
As soon as it gets,
I explained to you that turning on the fan would cause the smell to spread and worsen the air quality in the module.
I have told you time and time again.
Do not turn on the fan.
Check your attitude when you're writing it.
I mean,
your frustration.
I love when people get so specific. That they're choosing violence. They want it done. They're saying this is an attack.
Right.
My upstairs neighbor, who now we're very close, but at a time she wrote me a note that she put on my door, and it said,
"Are you whispering because your upstairs neighbor?"
The walls are so thin, it's crazy. She was like, the note said, "Hey Jack, I'd appreciate it if you could listen to your self-help or motivational speaker before 10 p.m." And I was like,
you can hear your self-help tape.
I was like, I had gotten a book from a friend about like communicating in relationships, and I was blasting while I was doing the dishes. But I will say it was before 10, so she was trying to get some evidence that it was late after hours, so she could go to the home. She was trying to create a narrative that was not true.
Right. So was it really necessary for her to say that you're listening to self-help?
Well, she was trying to hurt me, and she did. I kept the note. The note's on my fridge still. I've had it for like a year.
We'll put it on Instagram.
Right.
I told her it's one of the funniest things that I keep. It just makes you laugh.
And now you're friends.
Yeah, now you're friends.
We do brunch.
But neutral language.
Obviously, that relationship self-help book worked for both of you guys.
So we communicated through the pain.
Right. So I think you guys worked it out.
That was huge.
The thing that I think is, lastly, I want to say on this this case that I read.
The Baltimore Social Security.
Right. They literally, when they were tracking it, they literally have each day, and it's like 10:15, 1:10, 1:44, 2:25.
Get a life.
They literally marked each day, the hour, down to the minute, 2:52.
How horrifying.
PM that he passed gas.
I would just be like, get off my back.
I love this.
You know what
too.
I mean?
This is
Fire
the last
me, but
one.
don't do that.
Yeah, don't. That's cruel.
I love this one though. This is the last one because someone who has that issue, it's likely medical, but they did address that in the note. They said you've submitted medical evidence that you have some medical conditions, which at times may keep you from being able to do work for a full day or for brief periods. However, nothing you have submitted has indicated that you have uncontrollable flatulence. It is my belief that you can control this condition.
Okay.
I believe.
So we don't care about your beliefs.
No.
We don't care.
Take that out, but this is gold. I will say that.
I do like the conditions that may not actually relate to gas at all.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's where you leave it to the
every
doctor
condition
to fill
really
it out.
Right.
You know, as far as what the actual condition is.
Right.
I mean, face it, most reasons people pass gas is something is happening physiologically in your body. Now, that doesn't mean it rises to a disability.
With your stomach.
The
going back to
has
Fred,
found you.
Oh, man, you guys. Going back to Fred, I would speak to him right away, 6 to 8 times per day. I would say, you're laughing. So do you realize that this is offensive to other people? It is distracting, and it's making for an uncomfortable work environment. Right. And then when he says he can't help it, we're not going to pry medically. No. But we are going to say it is going to have to stop. If he says, then if he volunteers, I have a medical condition, that's when we go down the ADA assessment. And so that is what you do with Fred. But, you want to tackle it early, not tackle Fred. Tackle it early.
Yeah, right.
And
no,
make
don't
sure
take Fred down. He deserves to stand.
Exactly. And make sure you look to see that you do have a hygiene policy. I do think
that's the best way to do it. Because then it's clear. It's just part of general hygiene, or if it's a medical thing, it's ADA and it's talking to HR.
Right. So even gas can become a legal risk to an organization.
So crazy.
We get this question a lot. Like I said at the beginning, we get it surprisingly a lot. So
I'm sure.
Have that awkward conversation.
I'm writing letters to. Actually, I'm writing personal letters and business letters.
To
And
who?
a letter to Santa.
Oh.
No, about the farting.
Well,
Good for
okay,
you.
you go do
Okay.
that.
That's enough.
Thank you guys for discussing an awkward topic, and we did it
Right.
without too many juvenile jokes. We had a
We
Yeah, we
made
got
it out of
through.
here. We made
I
it
felt like I
out
was
of
trying to be
here.
very serious because also it is weird because it's funny, but farts are funny, but until they're not.
Exactly.
Right.
Make a poster out of that.
Yeah, there you go.
Farts are
All
funny
right.
until they're not.
That's the truth. All right, you guys.
I'm done.
I'm
Well, have a
absolutely
great-
set.
Have a mayhem-free week, and don't forget to like, follow, share, watch us on YouTube, and
And pass gas in your home. Let it rip.
Yeah.
Enjoy that for yourself.
Okay.
Everybody
Have a
loves
gr-
that for them. But
Have
do
a
that
great
there.
week.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you guys later.
have a
Bye.
great week.
Managing Mayhem is presented by Management Northwest and Management Southwest and cannot be copied or rebroadcast without prior written consent. By listening to this podcast, you understand that we, or at least two of us, are lawyers, but we are not your lawyers. Therefore, nothing we say on the podcast should be taken as legal advice or considered to create an attorney-client relationship. It is solely meant for your educational and informational purposes. The podcast should not be used as a substitute for legal advice from an attorney licensed in your state. Please be aware that listening to lawyers can cause side effects such as migraine, self-doubt, and also may cure insomnia. But you know what? Trust your own judgment or you're not your mom.